For millennia, humanity sought to understand the world around them. But before the advent of philosophy, people primarily explained the world and its mysteries through the lens of myths, narratives filled with gods, heroes, and supernatural events. These stories provided explanations for natural phenomena and the human condition. Gods were seen as hurling lightning from the heavens, their divine wrath or favor directly influencing the world. Deities were believed to be blessing or cursing crops, determining the success or failure of harvests, and by extension, the prosperity of communities. These stories offered comfort and a sense of order, providing a framework for understanding the unpredictable nature of existence. However, they relied heavily on tradition, passed down through generations, rather than on empirical evidence or critical analysis. The emphasis was on accepting the established narrative, not questioning its validity. Then a pivotal shift occurred in 6th century BC Greece, a region known for its burgeoning intellectual curiosity. It was during this era that a new kind of thinker emerged on the scene, individuals who dared to challenge the traditional explanations and seek answers through reason and observation. These were the first philosophers, the pioneers of critical thought. They shifted the focus of inquiry, asking not who or what divine power made the world, but rather what fundamental substance or principle the world was made of. Thales, often considered the father of Western philosophy, famously proposed that everything was ultimately made of water, not because of ancient myth or religious dogma, but through his own observation of the natural world and the application of reason. He saw water's transformative properties and its essential role in sustaining life. His student Anaximander, while influenced by Thales, disagreed with his mentor's conclusion. He suggested that the fundamental substance was an undefined, boundless entity, something he termed the apeiron. Anaximenes, another early philosopher, took a different approach, positing that air was the fundamental element. He believed that air could transform into other substances through processes of thickening or thinning, explaining the diversity of the world. These early philosophers collectively initiated a profound shift in thinking, moving away from supernatural explanations rooted in mythology and towards natural explanations based on observation and reasoning. Their real breakthrough, however, wasn't necessarily the specific answers they proposed, but rather the method they employed in seeking those answers, questioning assumptions, carefully observing the world around them, and engaging in logical reasoning. They opened the door to intellectual debate and discourse, demonstrating that we, as humans, could actively seek answers for ourselves rather than passively accepting traditional narratives. This burgeoning spirit of inquiry, this commitment to reason and observation, fundamentally set the stage for all philosophical inquiry to come, shaping the course of Western thought for centuries. In Athens, a city renowned for its intellectual curiosity and vibrant culture, philosophy flourished, reaching unprecedented heights with figures like Socrates. Socrates, a man deeply concerned with the human condition, focused his inquiries primarily on how we should live our lives, what constitutes a good life, and how we can achieve it. His teachings weren't abstract theories, but practical guidance for everyday living. Remarkably, he wrote nothing down himself. Our understanding of him comes almost entirely through the writings of his devoted student Plato, who meticulously documented and expanded upon Socrates' ideas. Plato ensured that Socrates' wisdom would endure for generations to come. Socrates frequently engaged people in lively discussions in the bustling agora, the heart of Athenian life, rigorously exposing shaky beliefs, challenging conventional wisdom, and urging self-examination as the path to true knowledge and virtue. He believed that unexamined life was not worth living. His famous motto encapsulating his approach to wisdom was, "True wisdom is knowing you know nothing." It was a call for intellectual humility and a constant pursuit of understanding. This Socratic method, a relentless process of questioning, probing, and challenging assumptions, inevitably challenged deeply held assumptions, disrupted the status quo, and as a result, made him powerful enemies among the Athenian elite. Accused of corrupting the youth of Athens and undermining traditional values, Socrates was ultimately sentenced to death by drinking hemlock, a poisonous concoction. He faced his execution calmly and with unwavering conviction, embodying the very principles he had taught throughout his life, demonstrating what it meant to be a true philosopher until his very last breath. Plato, deeply devastated by his teacher's unjust death, grappled with profound questions about justice, reality, and the nature of knowledge. He developed a complex philosophical system, imagining two distinct realities: The world we perceive with our senses, our imperfect and ever-changing world, filled with shadows and illusions and a higher, more fundamental realm of perfect, eternal forms, representing the true essence of things like beauty, justice, and goodness. The philosopher's task, according to Plato, is to transcend the limitations of the senses and seek these perfect forms through reason and intellectual contemplation. Aristotle, Plato's brilliant student, while deeply influenced by his teacher, ultimately disagreed with Plato's theory of forms, arguing that truth and knowledge are not to be found in some abstract realm, but rather by carefully studying the world around us, through observation and empirical investigation. He embarked on a vast project to classify everything in the natural world, from plants and animals to stars and planets, believing that every entity has an inherent purpose, or telos, built into its very nature, guiding its development and behavior. For Aristotle, living a good and fulfilling life means actively cultivating virtues, developing our rational faculties, and fulfilling our unique purpose as rational beings capable of thought, reason, and moral action. Together, these three towering figures of Athenian philosophy profoundly shaped the course of Western thought for centuries, leaving an enduring legacy that continues to inspire and challenge us today. As empires replaced city-states, philosophy turned practical. How to find peace in a turbulent world. Stoicism, founded by Zeno, taught that while we can't control events, we can control our responses, seeking tranquility by accepting what we can't change. Epicurus, teaching in his garden, defined happiness as simple pleasures and freedom from fear, not indulgence. He urged us not to fear death and to avoid anxiety by living simply among friends. Skeptics like Pyrrho doubted certainty itself, recommending we suspend judgment to achieve mental peace. These schools offered different recipes for happiness, focusing on inner life over external chaos. Philosophy became a guide for living, not just for knowing. In uncertain times, these ideas promised calm and resilience. Their influence endures in how we seek meaning and peace today. In the Middle Ages, philosophy became the handmaiden of theology, exploring faith with reason. St. Augustine, inspired by Plato, argued that true reality lies in the eternal mind of God, not the physical world. He wrestled with questions like the nature of time and the problem of evil, shaping Christian thought for centuries. Meanwhile, Islamic philosophers like Avicenna and Averroes preserved and expanded Aristotle's works, blending them with Islamic theology. Their writings re-entered Europe, sparking intellectual revival. St. Thomas Aquinas then synthesized Aristotle with Christianity, arguing that reason and faith are harmonious paths to truth. He offered logical proofs for God's existence but said faith reveals mysteries beyond reason. Aquinas' Summa Theologica became the foundation of Catholic philosophy. This era showed how philosophy and faith could enrich each other. The Renaissance and scientific revolution brought a new confidence in reason. René Descartes doubted everything, even his senses, to find certainty. He realized that doubting proved his own existence. I think, therefore I am. From this foundation, Descartes rebuilt knowledge step by step. He split reality into mind, thinking, and matter, physical, a view called dualism. This raised the mind-body problem. How can mind and body interact? Descartes' questions launched modern philosophy, focusing on knowledge, mind, and self. His legacy, radical doubt, and the search for certainty. The Enlightenment, a period of unprecedented intellectual ferment, brought forth new debates. It was a time when long-held assumptions were challenged, and the very nature of knowledge itself came under intense scrutiny. These debates centered around the fundamental question, what is the true source of knowledge? How do we acquire it? And how can we be certain of its validity? British empiricists, with John Locke as a leading voice, argued that all ideas, without exception, originate from experience. They posited that our understanding of the world is built upon the foundation of sensory input and observation. According to Locke, our minds are initially blank slates, devoid of any pre-existing knowledge. These slates are gradually shaped and filled by the information we gather through our senses, forming the basis of our thoughts and beliefs. David Hume, another influential figure in the empiricist tradition, pushed this line of reasoning even further, delving into profound questions about causation, and even challenging the very notion of a stable, enduring self. He questioned whether we can truly know anything with certainty. Hume suggested that what we perceive as a unified self is, in reality, merely a collection of fleeting perceptions, a constantly shifting bundle of sensory impressions. Hume's radical skepticism sent shockwaves through the intellectual landscape, shaking the foundations of both scientific inquiry and our understanding of personal identity. His ideas challenged the prevailing assumptions about the nature of reality and the limits of human reason. Immanuel Kant, a towering figure in the history of philosophy, responded to Hume's skepticism with a groundbreaking new perspective, proposing that our minds are not passive recipients of information, but rather actively shape and structure our experience of the world. Kant argued that our minds come equipped with built-in categories, fundamental concepts like space, time, and causation, which predetermine how we perceive and understand reality. For Kant, we are not simply passive observers who receive the world as it is, but active participants in its construction, shaping our experience through the inherent structures of our minds. This Copernican revolution in philosophy explained how we can possess certain knowledge of cause and effect, as these concepts are not derived solely from experience, but are inherent to our cognitive framework. Kant effectively bridged the gap between rationalism, which emphasizes innate knowledge, and empiricism, which emphasizes experience, fundamentally transforming philosophy's approach to the problem of knowledge and setting the stage for future generations of thinkers. The debate over the nature of knowledge and how we come to know what we know continues to be a central concern in philosophy today. These groundbreaking thinkers redefined not only the limits of human understanding, but also the very possibilities of what we can know and how we can know it, leaving an enduring legacy on the course of intellectual history. The modern era brought new challenges: industrialization, war, and social upheaval. Karl Marx saw history as class struggle, with capitalism exploiting workers and shaping ideas. He called not just to interpret the world, but to change it, predicting revolution and a classless society. Meanwhile, existentialists like Sartre and de Beauvoir focused on individual freedom and meaning in a world without given purpose. Sartre declared, "Existence precedes essence. We create ourselves through choices. This freedom is both liberating and burdensome. We bear full responsibility for who we become." De Beauvoir extended existentialism to feminism, arguing that women must define themselves, not accept roles imposed by society. These philosophies responded to uncertainty with calls for action and authenticity. Their influence shapes debates on freedom, identity, and justice. Today, philosophy tackles urgent, real-world problems. Political philosopher John Rawls asked, "What rules would we choose for society if we didn't know our own status?" His answer, fairness and justice for all. In philosophy of mind, thinkers debate the nature of consciousness. Can machines think, or is there something unique about human experience? The hard problem of consciousness asks why subjective experience exists at all. Technology raises new ethical questions: genetic engineering, AI rights, algorithmic fairness. Philosophers now work alongside scientists, lawyers, and engineers to address these challenges. The questions have changed, but philosophy's critical tools are more vital than ever. It helps us navigate a rapidly changing world with clarity and responsibility. Why does philosophy matter today? It's not about final answers, but about how we think. Philosophy teaches us to question assumptions, clarify concepts, and evaluate arguments. It's a toolkit for navigating life's complexities with wisdom and perspective. Every debate, political, ethical, personal, rests on philosophical ideas. Studying philosophy reveals that our beliefs are not the only possible ones. It fosters humility, open-mindedness, and critical thinking. Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Philosophy invites us to ask the big questions and live more thoughtfully. Its greatest gift, a method for living a more examined, ethical, and free life.